Tottenham man, obviously. He can reflect back to being a player with and manager of some of the finest players that have ever been in the game.
The place is fantastic, the tradition of this club.
To be the manager of 3 cup-winning teams here, I'm so lucky, it's untrue.
Hotspur America Podcast, airing every week during the English Premier League season.
What a glory, glory night at White Hart Lane. This great and historic football club.
Joyful night down the Tottenham High Road.
Hotspur America, the original US-based podcast dedicated solely to Tottenham Hotspur Football Club.
Is Gascoigne going to have a crack? He is, you know. Oh, I say! Schoolboy's own stuff.
I hate Arsenal, just hate them.
Oh, what a goal! Unbelievable! Wow, this is incredible.
We're the Yids in America.
Dibs is there to tap in. What a fantastic run. He scored! And it's turned home. Eric Dyer.
This is your Hotspur America. Good afternoon and good evening, everybody. Hotspur America Podcast, episode 17 of this, our first season. With me today, as usual, Sam Zerwell. Sam, how are you?
Hello. I am very well.
How can you not be?
How can you be?
Yeah, we'll get into me later. Because, yesterday was a little about me. I'm kind of, I like that. Erik Lamela, you beauty. And with us today, as Sam said, our little threesome that we got going on here, the president of Dallas Spurs, our supporters group here in the Metroplex, and a very good friend of mine, Mr. Simon Dodsworth. Simon, how are you, bud?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
I'm very well. And instantly, as you guys can tell, he gives a lot of class to the show with his British accent. So I enjoy having him on. And we're going to talk a lot about Dallas Spurs because I really want to make this show a little bit less about just Tottenham in general and about the supporters clubs, the networks. I have a few questions for Simon that I want to ask him, and we're going to get into that shortly. But first, let's talk about the week that was. Spurs 2, Burnley 1 yesterday. Game was a little bit tighter, I think, than everybody liked. Burnley did give us some pressure, and we had to answer the question a few times in the second half. But Kane and Lamela with 2 wonderful goals yesterday. And the downside of the day, obviously, was the Mason injury. But coming away from that victory, Simon, let's start with you. How'd you feel about the game yesterday?
Yeah, I think on paper you're expecting Spurs to just wallop Burnley, but I think this season we found out that we just don't wallop anyone. Last time we played in the league, I think we beat them 5-0. Robbie Keane got 4. That was when they went down. Last time at the Lane, I think we lost 4-2 in the last game of the season once we qualified for the Champions League.
Right.
I think we were up in that game and ended up losing 4-2. So, it's their first season back. They struggled, but they've hit a patch of form in the last few games. Notably, their win last week against Southampton obviously had their confidence up, and I think you saw that on the pitch yesterday. I think we did well in the first half. The second half was a bit flat, but it was a much better overall team performance. We've started to see something of some cohesion in the last few weeks, and it gives us good confidence going to play Leicester on Boxing Day with 2 big matches coming up after that.
Yeah, and that cohesion extends into the crowd, doesn't it? I mean, they're making a big deal, the club is anyway, when Pochettino was having his interview, that this relationship between the fans and the players is all of a sudden growing, and that the players are feeding off of the positivity that the fans are getting. Of course, there was a lot said about the negativity, the whistling and the booing that went on at the beginning of the year when we were struggling. Every time we made a bad pass or every time something went awry on the pitch, the fans got on them pretty hard, and rightfully so. It was woeful the way things started off, especially at home. We kind of looked at each other and we were like, we can't have 5 losses at home already. And this was a couple of weeks ago. And then all of a sudden lately, form has kind of caught fire with this team. And when you see the way that the play kind of manifested itself a little bit, and you always felt in control. But Burnley, more than Leicester, as you mentioned, that's coming up on Boxing Day, scared me because Danny Ings has been in such fine form, scoring goals for this team. And we struggle when the strikers that we are playing against seem to be having a very good run of form. Needless to say that our back four has had its moments at times in the middle of the defensive midfield, especially has left some open holes that has left Lloris rather vulnerable. Sam, what about you? What did you take away from yesterday?
Well, I think more than anything else, just continuation of moving in the right direction. I think that everybody would agree that we just simply progress more when Eriksen is in a central role, when he is given some degree of creative freedom. And I think the most encouraging thing yesterday was that Lamela really looked like a Premier League player. I mean, I made the comment yesterday that was a really good fixture for him to sort of show himself. And and although he seemed to be quiet in the second half, he was very, very good all game long. And I think this is it's all about momentum and confidence building, and another good fixture. Leicester before the big two back to back, which thank God are at home, and I'm encouraged. I'm genuinely encouraged. Lots of good takeaways from yesterday. Although we would like to have more goals, but I think that comes in time.
Yeah, I agree with you. And when you think about more goals, all you have to do is go back even just a few days earlier and just say, wow, look at this Newcastle win coming off a 2-1 loss at White Hart Lane just back in October. At the end of October there, it made you wonder, is this going to be a revenge type of a scenario for Spurs? How are they going to come out? How is Pochettino really attacking the Cups? And when you sit back as a fan and you realize that we are, not only did we annihilate Newcastle, we were so much better than them in every way, shape, or form, understanding that we had that loss hanging over our heads from Newcastle, I thought of it kind of as a revenge match, and I was really happy to see the players really respond, come out, win this thing 4-0, and move on in the Cup. And we're still alive in every single competition that we're in.
Yeah, we talked a lot about sort of style of play and sort of Poch's stamp on this team, and I think we're starting to see that. We I was chatting the other day with somebody on Twitter about sort of when was the last time we saw any goals that resulted from sort of movement into the box, and we absolutely saw that really throughout the game yesterday, and I think that's a very encouraging sign.
Wow, that I don't know. It's one of those things where you almost don't want to get too excited about how well we're playing, but it's also one of the scenarios that you look at and you say, this is the way we should be playing. This is the talent that we have on this club. This is the way that this is supposed to be happening, right?
Oh, absolutely. Look, this was. I mean, let's not forget. This was Burnley, so we don't need to get carried away. But again, just encouraging, and I don't think the scoreline really. I mean, look, Kane. We should have had 3, right? I mean, Lamela was brilliant down on the byline there, and that fantastic ball, and just Kane had a bit of a Soldado moment. And, so there should have been more goals, and so I don't think the scoreline really told the story. We did what we should have done, and we're progressing. We're progressing.
Yeah, and again, the one bad thing that came out of yesterday was the Mason injury. There's been nothing really said other than the fact that Pochettino came out and said we don't think it's as bad as it seemed. But for me, anytime a player says, I can't even continue after a kid like that has been fighting his guts off for 3 years to try to get into this side. I'm really interested to see what that scan shows. But in hindsight, it also makes us see that we're going to get a really good run at taking a look at Mr. Stambouli, I think.
Yeah, well, it's scary, right? Because Nabil's going to be leaving us soon here for the African Cup of Nations. So, yeah, you're definitely going to see Stambouli run out. But, I mean, to your point, Mason's tough. I mean, he's Tottenham hard, and you got to think if he's going to pull himself out, you just cross your fingers and pray he's not terribly injured.
Right.
Let's look at our options. If Bentaleb's gone, Mason's out for 3 to 4 weeks. It's Capoue and Dembele, right?
That's basically it, unless you're going to put Paulinho in there as well.
Yeah, those aren't bad. Those aren't terrible second prizes. And actually, Dembele I thought looked quite good against Newcastle.
He did.
Did you see that little move that he made with his right foot? Even it was brilliant. Yeah, surprising. I'd like to see him. I think he could be the one that actually could be more offensive. He's never really seemed to show it, but I'd like to see him try.
Yeah. And when I look back at the score sheet in the week, Kane's scored twice again, and it's 63rd minute in the League Cup and 21st minute, opening up the account in the league. Lamela scores, Bentaleb scores. He finally gets his first for Tottenham. Chadley again scores, and Soldado gets a goal for himself. The players that seem like should be scoring are finally scoring, and we're looking at these score sheets, and they really don't have Eriksen's name on it. Now, we were kind of talking yesterday that the reason that we feel that we're doing so well is because everything is going through Christian right now. They've got him playing more in the middle. They're letting him set things up. They're letting him attack. It looks almost like Modric, kind of going up the field. Am I wrong in thinking that that's the way that... I never got to see Modric play too much before.
And he's scoring more. It's
yeah.
Actually, you could argue that it's even a little bit better. I mean, I don't want to get carried away, but
yeah.
He's got 6 goals. He's our leading goal scorer along with Chadley, and he puts himself in scoring positions. He's I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think? I think he's a much better shooter than Luka was.
Yeah, I think you're right there, and I think it's important that he plays in that number 10 role behind the striker. The experimentation with Soldado and Kane, I'm not quite sure that worked out, but we saw it when we dug in against Swansea last week, and we saw it yesterday. It makes perfect sense to have him there. I'm still not convinced with the whole inverted winger thing. I think we need some more natural width to whip those crosses in rather than cutting inside and slotting them to the byline. But it's good to see Eriksen showing his potential throughout the game versus fading out and then getting substituted as he was earlier in the season.
Yeah, it seems like also that one of the things that kind of shouts to get rid of the inverted winger thing is that the one thing that Soldado really relied on when he was over in Spain was getting fed. And when you have these players trying to do that for him from a very narrow pitch in the middle, just trying to just squeeze it through the center backs rather than whipping these balls in from the angles, it's really been a detriment to him, hasn't it?
Yeah, no, you're right.
Well, look at Chadley setting up the first goal yesterday. Perfect cross.
Yep.
Harry made the right run and used his head. Typical centre forward, and we need more of that. And then we'll get those goal scoring chances.
Yeah, just the way that Skirtle knocked off, taking a couple of points away from the Gooners today. So beauty. I love that.
I'll say this. Maybe I'm a little old school. I'm not the biggest fan of the inverted winger system, but I will say this yesterday. Chadley's cross was with his left foot, and the miss that Kane had came off of a right-footed pass from Lamela. So, I mean, that was encouraging. I mean, it worked yesterday.
Yeah, and you look at Lamela's goal, that's all because he can slide in from the right and be on his left foot.
Point, because there was two big plays that happened. His other shot was very similar, but he mixed it up. It was that shot where he cut in, the keeper saved it, and then what he did was he took it to the right with 2 really splendid crossovers where he was abusing that guy. That was their left back, and then the guy had given him so much freedom, if you will, space, that then he cuts in, and that was a gorgeous goal.
Yeah.
And I know who that reminded you of, didn't it, Kenny? It did, didn't it? Go on, you can say it.
I'm not gonna say it.
How well did you sleep last night?
You know what? I went home and I watched some Gareth Bale videos, and just they kind of looked the same, but he's not Gareth Bale. I'm not gonna say that.
No, I know, but I know your head rested sweetly on your Coco Lamela pillow.
I was just happy that since I bought the jersey, I wasn't like the curse and the reason that he was never gonna score in the league.
So, could you give the play-by-play of Ken after?
Well, we
let's not
so much.
Oh shit!
From the minute we saw Lamela in the starting lineup walking out the tunnel, we said, we're going to lose. Lamela's playing. This is going to be rubbish. And, Ken was just getting flack from everyone.
He should be traded. Why isn't he on the bench?
Yeah, so then
get rid of him.
He makes the move. He cuts in, and you see him, teeing up for the shot. He bent it in perfectly. I have never seen Ken move so fast. He darted out the double doors of the pub onto the balcony. I don't know what he said out there, but I've never heard